Hi, my name is Lauren Doobie, and I'm partnering with the Dig today to do an artist workshop on how you can 3D model and 3D animate this lovely treasure chest. I'm going to walk you through how to create it, how to use modifiers, how to animate it, and ultimately you will end up with something like this. And you can continue on to texture it, give it some color, and ultimately render it. Alright, so we're just going to get started by modeling our treasure chest. First thing you do, of course, is download Blender. It is free software. And next, you just want to get comfortable with the environment. I highly recommend just going in, playing around. Definitely Google Blender hotkeys. I'm going to be using a bunch. Don't worry, because everything that I do, will be showing up right there as I press it. So, if you are ready with that, we're just going to dive right in. So we're going to be starting with our cube, and S to scale, but we want to shrink it specifically on the Z-axis. Give it more of that, treasure chest shape. And next on the X-axis, we're going to grow it so that is a nice box. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to enter edit mode. And we're going to select the faces, and we want this top face, and what we're going to do is we're going to inset just a smidge. And you can see it's not entirely even on all four sides, so what you can do is still selecting that face, you can scale it on the X-axis to kind of make it a little bit more even. And that looks good. So what we're going to do next is we're going to enter wireframe mode, and we're going to extrude this down. And the reason we have it in wireframe mode is because when you're in solid mode, you really can't see or tell exactly where that is in there. So in wireframe, we're going to be able to see, oh yeah, it's not passing through the bottom, or it's not really thin, or it's not really thick. So we just have it nice, happy medium, about the same size as your inset sides, but that should be good. All right, and so exiting that, we're going to add some insert loops. So, Control R, and what you want is it's going to highlight magenta. It basically just adds an edge that goes all the way around your object. You want the vertical ones, so once it's vertical, you click, and then we're going to drag those to the side. So do that again, find the middle, drag it to the side, and we're going to do it one more time for good measure. But we're gonna put it exactly in the middle, and it's really hard to get it exactly in the middle. So what you can do is you can try and get it there yourself, but after you try and get in there, you're a little bit off, so just go ahead and type it in at exactly 0, and that looks good. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to faces, and we're going to lasso. So the way you lasso is Control left click. The best way to lasso to make sure you're getting all these faces, because you see it doesn't pass entirely through, is to be in wireframe mode. So now what I can do is Control left click, and that gets all of them. And you're just going to delete those faces. You do not need them. And that may be surprising, but what we're going to do next is really going to fix that. So now that we are, just half of it, we're going to apply, up here's the modifiers, we're going to apply a mirror modifier. And that just brings that second half right on back. We're going to make sure it's on the X-axis, merge, and I'm going to go ahead and up this just a little bit to like 0.007. It doesn't have to be a lot, it's just because we're going to be editing this later on, and I want to make sure it's consistently merging and I don't forget that. But there you have your mirror modifier. And what we're going to do next is we're gonna go ahead and back in object mode, we're just gonna duplicate this. So that's been duplicated, and you can tell, oh, there's a whole nother one exactly there. And we're gonna move it just behind this guy on the Y-axis. Okay, and then after you've duplicated it, moved it to the side, what you're gonna wanna do is you're going to want to rotate it. So that's R, and then we're rotating it along the X-axis, which Of course, you can never get it exactly. I went over, so you go over here and you type in 180 to get it perfectly level. Then what we're gonna do to make things simpler is this is your chest, bottom, and this is your lid. So what you can do over here is you can actually name them, just so you're not confused. So this is chest, and then this one is lid. We're going to hide chest. You can also do that by pressing H. So H hides whatever you want hidden. Of course, you can always come over here and press that yourself. And we're going to start working on making this chest a little more, top of a chest shaped, give it a little more of a cylindrical shape. So we're going to start with some edge loops, this time horizontal, roughly in the middle. And the problem with this is, because you cut it in half, it doesn't get the inside. So you're going to do another one, making sure you get the inside, because that's really important here. And I'm going to speed through this. Basically what you're going to do is you're going to repeat that, giving it an inside and an outside edge loop. Easier way to see that is through wireframe. And you're going to do that for just the top half and then 2 times to split it into 3 segments. So I'm going to do that really quickly. Okay, so now that I've done that, we're going to switch to face mode, and we're just going to be selecting the top 2/3 of these faces to be manipulating them to create more of a dome shape. And so you really want to make sure that you've selected the ones you want, just getting the top 2/3. I have the ones I want, and I'm just going to be scaling these in along the y-axis, enough so that we're creating just a steady dome. Not quite 90 degrees, but we'll get there by doing the exact same thing to the top. So I'm going to repeat that. Okay, and then we're going to have the very top faces. Make sure you get them all. And we're going to scale those in, but we're also going to move those down just to really round it out. So again, scale it on the Y. And we're just going to move it down. Create that nice dome shape. Okay, and you can see it over here a little bit better. But that is what we want. Okay. Okay, so next what we're going to do is we're going to be adding another modifier. So back over here, we're going to be adding the Bevel modifier, and you can tell it kind of looks a little strange. We're going to fix that by just selecting here. We want the width to be 0.05, segments to be 2, and the limit method to be on angle. So that looks pretty good right there. And we're just going to repeat that exact same thing over here with our chest. So chest, we're going to add a modifier, Bevel. And then next what we're going to do, because that looks pretty good, is we're going to hit apply on both of their Bevel modifiers. What we're going to do now is we're going to go in and we're going to use those beveled edges to sort of create like a frame for our wooden chest. So how that's going to work is back in edit mode, I'm going to go in and I'm going to select all of these faces real quick. Okay, so now that I have those selected, we're going to extrude those. I'm just going to size them up a tiny bit, just to make it a little bit more prominent. Of course, by coloring this, it'll all be a lot more visible. I'm just going to do this really quickly, and there you can see that it looks like a nice, subtle, edge to it all. And we're just going to go over to our lid and repeat that exact same thing. Alright, so now we have both of those looking great. And it may be a little subtle, but you will be able to see those much more easily when things are colored. Same thing goes for this band. So we're going to take this band, we're going to shift select the one on the other side, and we're going to extrude that one. So we're going to extrude that one, but we're only going to do it on the sort of the Y axis. Okay, and we're going to do the exact same thing on the lid. Alright, so now that we're done with this, we're going to move on to the next part, which is adding a tiny bit more embellishments, just to teach you a few more modifiers, and to make it look a little more exciting as a treasure chest. First of all, I'm going to hide both of these, and we're going to get to work on the next stuff. So to add things, we're going to get Shift A, and we want a cylinder this time. And we're going to do most of our stuff right here. So we're going to change these 0.5, 8 vertices. Oh wait, that should be 0.5. There we go. 0.25. Oops. All right. And then these should be 0, especially you want the x-axis to be 0. But now you also want the rotation to be 90 on the x-axis, just so this will fit to the front of our chest. Okay, so we have that guy. I'm gonna move him forward a bit. I'm gonna unhide our chest just so we can see, you know, what he looks like relative to the chest. So I'm gonna scale him down. I'm also gonna scale him down on the z-axis, so it's a little more unique of a shape. I'm gonna say that looks pretty good. So we're gonna press Control A and we're gonna apply scale. And that kind of just sets that object. So we're gonna, you know, again, hide this chest, and we're gonna add in another, Shift A, another cylinder. This one, again, make sure it's on the x-axis. We're gonna go back in, it's 8. We're gonna change the radius. This one's going to be a radius of 0.2 and a depth of 0.4. We're gonna rotate it again. And we're gonna move this guy sort of up here, scale him down even more, just so he fits within, you know, this guy. What we're gonna do, whoops, is we're going to select these two bottom faces, and we're just gonna extrude those down and along the x-axis out, so that they look more like a key, like a keyhole, because we're gonna be inverting this almost. So we have that guy. Just gonna scale him down a little bit more. That looks pretty good. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna use these two and apply a bevel modifier. So selecting the main cylinder, we're gonna go add modifier. Oops, sorry, not bevel. We're gonna do Boolean. But we're gonna be choosing the difference option, and for object, we're gonna use this little dropper, click the dropper, and then select your second cylinder. So that should be this guy. And then what you can do is you can hide this guy, and you can kind of see that there's now an inset of an opposite of the keyhole. So now we have a nice little guy right here. So now what you're going to do is you're going to apply this Boolean, and then we're going to unhide our chest. We're going to also apply the mirror modifier. Actually, let's go ahead, get this lid out here, and apply that mirror modifier. So all your modifiers are applied. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add a Boolean to the chest. So now this one's going, whoops, this one's going to be union. And the object is going to be our new cylinder. All right, and so that's going to sort of unify those two. Alright, so at this point, I'm going to stop with the modeling, and if you would like to 3D print this, I highly recommend you find a hinge, a 3D printable hinge, or you can go build your own hinge if you want to delve more into learning Blender with a little bit of practice. I'm sure you can do it. But right now, this is nice and level, and it is in a position where you could export this to be printed. So the way you do that is you go to File, Export, and then you want to export it specifically as an STL.stl because that is what the 3D printers use to slice. But at this point, we're going to go ahead and move on for convenience and speed. And I'm going to put this lid on top of my box. And really, I'm just going to be moving it, you know, to where I think it sits nicely. And it seems a little bit taller than I'd like, so at this point I can scale it on the Z-axis and bring it down a little bit. Again, lower it so that it sits nicely. Okay, and so we have our lid on, and what we're gonna do is right now, if you were to rotate it, it doesn't rotate the way you would think a box would because it's rotating around its center. So what we need to do is we need to get it to where it rotates along this back hinge. So what you're going to do is enter edit mode, and you're going to select these back sort of edges. Okay, and once you have those selected, you're going to go down here to mesh, you're going to go up to snap, and you're going to go cursor to selected. So that brings your main cursor over to that area. And then what you're going to do is you're going to hit tab to go back in object mode, because what you need is to go to object, you need to go to transform, and then origin to 3D cursor. So that moves basically what was the center mass, what was the center is now moved to the back. And now when you rotate it, it's opening like a lid would. Okay, and I'm actually going to rotate it open, along the x-axis, just so we can move on to the next step. And the next step is to add in coins, because obviously it's a treasure chest and you want to fill it with gold. So the way you do that is going to be using some modifiers. And so first thing you do is we're going to add in another cylinder. And this one we're going to go in and make it 12 vertices. Let's make it 0.2, 0.04. Oops. We want this guy to look like a coin. So just keep adjusting it. Scale. Bring it down a little. Scale it on the Z-axis. Make it flatter. Okay. And that's a pretty simple coin we have. The next thing we're going to do is add a modifier. So back over here, if you weren't on that before, go to the wrench, add modifier, and we're adding an array. So if you see already, right now we have it on the x-axis. You can increase the amount. I'm going to include the offset. So in the x-axis it's going to be, and this is handy because it's just 1.1. Whoops. 1.1. Just to give them some space between them so there's no overlap. And here, looking from the top, I'm gonna move this where it's gonna be covering the chest, and we're gonna increase the amount until we're covering the chest. So you're gonna continue this, so add another modifier, another array. It addended onto the previous one, but we're going to fix that, so we're going to turn that to 0, and this one is going to be the y-axis. So now we're going to increase it along the y-axis. And then one more time, we're going to add a modifier, array. And then this one's on the, whoops, make sure you go all the way to the bottom. This one's going to be on the z-axis. 1. Whoop. And there you have it. You have a bunch of coins. You can have as many as you'd like. And actually, to save some space, what I'm going to do is real quickly, I'm going to have a little buffer in there. So you don't have to have as many coins. Like, I can decrease the amount where there's just enough coins to cover. If I have another mesh in here, that's just going to take up some space. So we're going to move that in there, scale it. There we go. So now when the coins go in there, they're going to be filling sort of on top of that cube, just so you don't have like a extra empty space. That'll be good. Okay, so back to our coin array, and you can see that it's this guy. I'm gonna go ahead and name him coin just to be a little more clear. But what you're gonna do is you're gonna go in there and you're gonna apply all of these arrays. So now all of these arrays are applied. Okay, and after that, you're going to, just to give it a little more dimension whenever it, you know, falls, because we are gonna get this to just randomly fall in there, I'm gonna rotate it just a little bit, kind of give it that, you know, look. And then recenter it kind of over our chest. Yep. And then what we're gonna do next is we're gonna go into edit mode, and we're gonna press, I believe it's, yeah, we're gonna press P. And then we're gonna separate them by loose parts. And this is gonna take a while, so I'm gonna speed this up. Okay, so if that takes a really, really long time or crashes your computer, what you can do is you can reduce the number of coins you have. That might help a little bit. This can be rough on certain computers if you're not, you know, prepared for the rendering power you need. But at this point, we're gonna go ahead back into object mode. We're gonna do object, transform, origin to geometry. So that just gave each individual coin its own origin, center mass, that it can then use to calculate to give it dynamics. Next is the fun part. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here, and it's the very last one, so you have to pull out your bar, you can do that. But it's physics, so it's this bouncing ball, and we're going to be adding a rigid body. With that selected, click rigid body, you want it to be active, and you can go in here. We're not necessarily paying attention to, you know, how it's animated itself, we just want the end product. So if you are interested, you can look into this a little bit more. Really, we just need to click that and make sure it's active. Then what we're going to do is we're going to find our Rigidbody Tools. If you have Blender 2.8 or the newest model, I think it's in Object. You'll find Object Rigid Body, but for me it's over here. And what we're going to do is we're going to click Copy from Active. And it worked, all green, and we're good to go. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is obviously we're going to have these, you know, fall into this chest, but I kind of want them to be spread out outside of the chest, and obviously I can't dictate that it's going to fall exactly in the chest. I have it kind of going over. So what we're going to do is we're going to add another mesh, and this time it's a plane. And I'm going to go ahead and move that to the origin. Except you can see here that the plane is midway through the chest, so we have to bring it down a little bit towards at the bottom of the chest. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and scale that up. Pretty big. So we have our work area. And so now to make sure that whenever we have it colliding, that it actually collides, what we're going to do is we're going to make this its own rigid body. So we have this selected. Back over here to the physics, we're going to click rigid body, but this time we're changing it to passive. And then for shape, you have to set it to mesh. And I'm just going to repeat that really quickly for the chest and for the inside insert. Okay, so now that that is all set up and ready to go, I'm gonna basically go down here. So this is your animation bar. These are all of your frames. And you're starting at frame 0, but what you're gonna do right now is this will calculate for you exactly what happens as these coins fall. So you're just gonna press play, and you're gonna wait until the very end. I'm gonna speed this up. Okay, so at this very last point, what we're gonna do next is we're going to, see that looks really nice. We're going to basically freeze frame this. And the way you go about that is you have to select all of these, and obviously you have a lot. So the easiest way to make sure you get them all is to just hide everything else and then press A to select. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Okay, so now that I have all of them selected, I'm gonna go back over here to my Rigidbody Tools. And what I'm gonna click is Apply Transformation and then Remove. So now, whenever you go over your animation bar again, that stays exactly still. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring everything back from being hidden. And now that we have our beautiful coins, we're just going to animate basically this lid. So you're back on frame 0. What you're gonna do is you're going to select your lid, and going over here next to your modifiers and your physics bar, there's this cube that's just object. And of course you have your lid selected, and that confirms that. But what you're gonna do here is you're going to set the rotation, and you're going to what we call keyframing it. So every time you pause and set a position of something that will be animated, then that is a keyframe. So this one, I'm gonna go ahead and get it to look like it's closed. So 180 degrees, looks like it's closed. And then I'm going to right click, insert keyframes. So that just puts all those keyframes in there. So at 0, that is our starting point. Now the magic is if we go up to say frame 60 and we move this, so say we move this to be 60 degrees, that's pretty good, that's open. Then what you can do is you can right click again and you can click insert single keyframe. And now if you go back through this bar, you click and drag, it animates it opening itself. It goes between those two keyframes and it does it for you. So at this point, you have your animation. If you go to the very beginning, you can press play and it magically opens. And that's how you make an animated chest. If at this point you'd like to go into some lighting and texturing and learn how to render, that's a little bit too much for this tutorial because it has been really long, but feel free. There are plenty of online resources and plenty of wonderful videos. I personally learned how to use Blender from videos, and I'm sure that each and every one of you who've gotten this far can definitely do it and make amazing, cute chest animations. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for supporting the dig. Hope you all stay healthy and stay safe. Thank you.